I'd like to offer you my heartiest congratulations. What you've achieved has been recognised by your fellow citizens, and you've now been honoured by the Queen, and I've been honoured myself to give you that award on behalf of the Queen. Well done. Enjoy the day.
The New Zealand Royal Honours System is steeped in history and tradition. From 1848 till 1975, we were part of the British-based system. A highlight of the 1953-54 Royal Tour of New Zealand was an investiture ceremony conducted by a young Queen Elizabeth.
It's a gala day for the capital. At the Town Hall, the Queen honours 130 North Islanders. First, the Chief Justice, the Honourable Harold Barraclough, for services to law and public bodies. He rises Sir Harold Barraclough. The former commander of the New Zealand 3rd Division in the Pacific Theatre of War, equally distinguished in civil life, receives insignia of a Knight Commander of the Order of St. Michael and St. George. Until the present royal tour, these ceremonies had never before been filmed. 2,000 guests look on as Mr. Bruce Levy of Palmerston North, who has done as much as anyone in the world to make 2 blades of grass grow where one grew before, receives the accolade of knighthood. Sir Bruce Levy.
The awards nowadays are presented at either Government House Wellington, the official residence of our head of state, the Queen's representative Dame Patsy Reddy, this country's 21st Governor-General, or her Auckland residence for those receiving accolades in the Upper North Island. A fully Indigenous honours system was adopted in 1996 with the introduction of the New Zealand Order of Merit.
The awards are one way in which the nation can recognise the achievements of people in all walks of life for all kinds of amazing service to the nation. It recognises the achievements of people who've given a lifetime of service and devotion to duty, and for those who've worked in community service with no expectation of reward. And I think it's such a wonderful opportunity to thank people, and the fact that I can do it in person is amazing.
Our highest award is still the Victoria Cross, with Corporal Willie Apiata, the latest recipient for extreme bravery in Afghanistan. The Order of New Zealand, introduced in 1987, comes next, with its ordinary membership restricted to 20 living persons. Then the New Zealand Order of Merit, which has 5 levels, with men in the top 2 called Sir. Dames and Knights Grand Companions, Dames and Knights Companions, Companions, Officers and Members, and the Queen's Service Order and Queen's Service Medal for community and public service. New Zealand's honours system also includes a series of gallantry and bravery awards.
The most important part is that you're able to bring in people from all walks of life, from all parts of the country, and recognise them in the same ceremony for so many different things, whether it's outstanding skills and qualities in their chosen careers, or whether it's outstanding achievement by their service to others, or whether it's outstanding achievement in their duty to the country. So to each and every recipient, I'd like to offer my heartiest congratulations. It's an amazing achievement and you should be very proud.
The actual presentation of the awards on behalf of the Queen is one of the most important functions of Her Excellency, the Governor-General.
Ngā mana, ngā reo, ngā iwi o ngā huawha. Tēnei aku mihi mahana kia koutou. Kia ora tātou katoa. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I extend a warm greeting to you all. I specifically acknowledge the Honourable David Bennett, Minister of the Crown, Air Vice Marshal Kevin Short, Vice Chief of the Defence Force, Brigadier Chris Parsons, Deputy Chief of Army, and Rachel Haywood, Deputy Secretary of the Cabinet. Tēnā koutou katoa. It's a great pleasure for David and me to host you all at Government House here today for this investiture ceremony. What makes today particularly special is that it's an opportunity to acknowledge the significant contribution of a number of individuals Today's recipients have enriched our communities and our country as a whole by their actions. Today we thank them and we celebrate the work they have done for us. As Governor-General, I have the authority and the privilege on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen of New Zealand to hold an investiture for her and to confer the honours to which each recipient is entitled. Ladies and gentlemen, as each one is honoured, may I invite you to join me in thanking and congratulating them for their service to our country. Mr. Hewitt Humphrey will now summon the recipients and read the citation for each person.
Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Emeritus Professor John Burrows of Christchurch for services to the state. Emeritus Professor John Burrows is a law lecturer, author and former member of the Law Commission and co-chaired the panel which reviewed the New Zealand Constitution. He chaired the New Zealand Flag Consideration Panel which led a public engagement process resulting in 1.75 million New Zealanders engaging with the process online and over 10,000 suggestions for alternative flag designs. The first referendum had a turnout of 48.78% of enrolled voters, and the second had a turnout of 67.8% of enrolled voters, which equates to more than 2 million New Zealanders. As leader of the panel, Professor Burrows undertook significant unpaid work. His professionalism, commitment, and careful, considered approach resulted in significant public engagement. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Companion of the Queen's Service Order, Mr. Alistair Bisley of Wellington for services to the state. Mr. Alistair Bisley is Chair of the Land and Water Forum. In this role, he's moderated a multi-stakeholder consensus on the issue of freshwater policy reform. The Forum's recommendations have been progressively followed by government and regional councils. Mr. Bisley has communicated the Forum's work to the wider New Zealand community, speaking at conferences, seminars, and public engagement meetings. He's also chaired the Land and Water Trust, the legal entity that supports the Forum's work. He's held various roles in the public service, including Secretary of Transport, and a long diplomatic career with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, during which he led a number of New Zealand delegations to trade negotiations and consultations. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of an Officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mr. Kelvin Coe of Leaston for services to local government. Mr. Kelvin Coe has served 3 terms as Mayor of Selwyn District Council, having previously been a councillor for Ellesmere Ward and Deputy Mayor. He led the district through the aftermath of the Canterbury earthquakes, including a major housing expansion. He contributed to the Greater Christchurch Urban Development Strategy Implementation Committee, the Canterbury Earthquake Commission, CERA's Recovery Strategy Advisory Committee, and the Advisory Board for the Transition. He chaired the Canterbury Regional Civil Defence Committee and opened up council premises to house the displaced commissioners and staff of Environment Canterbury. He worked on the Canterbury Water Management Strategy as one of its leading advocates. He's a member of St John Area Committee and is a former provincial president of the North Canterbury branch of Federated Farmers. Mrs. Ray Duff of Wellington for services to women and education. Mrs. Ray Duff is the National President of the National Council of Women New Zealand and has led work on several reports to international forums on gender equality. As National President of the New Zealand Federation of Graduate Women, NZFGW, she developed and carried through a strategic plan for the future direction of the organisation. As chair of the NZFGW Charitable Trust, she established a new charitable trust to help women and girls participate in education. She's held a range of roles with Graduate Women International, including convening the Education Committee, membership of the Resolutions and Status of Women Committees, and New Zealand delegate to a range of conferences. Mrs. Duff improved financial and stock systems for Graduate Women Wellington's Academia Regalia hire business, which funds scholarships and awards. Professor Robert Younker of Palmerston North for services to Māori art and education. Professor Robert Younker leads the Toi Oho Ki Apiti program at Massey University, which he introduced when no other Māori arts program existed within the university system. He's exhibited, presented research and participated in discussions in major Indigenous arts centres around the world, including chairing a panel at the National Museum of the American Indian in New York. He's worked as an arts assessor and moderator for all of the major arts bodies in New Zealand and has been a research advisor within the Polytechnic and Wānanga systems. He's completed a range of sculptural commissions and featured in solo and group exhibitions. Professor Younker is the chair of Matakura, the collection of Māori art educationalists, writers, critics, historians and curators, and a trustee of the Toi Iho Charitable Trust. Mr. Simon Perry of Hamilton for services to sport and philanthropy. Mr. Simon Perry is a businessman who chairs the Brian Perry Charitable Trust. The trust donates money to community projects, including the Perry Outdoor Education Program for low decile schools, the Te Awa River Ride, and programs run by Swimming Waikato and Parafed Waikato. Mr. Perry is a former trustee of the Lion Foundation and serves on the boards of Cycling New Zealand, Swimming New Zealand, the Te Awa River Ride Charitable Trust, and the Home of Cycling Trust. He's helped the Waikato region to become a key sporting hub and has led some of the region's most high-profile property projects, including the Home of Cycling Avanti Velodrome and the Te Awa Cycleway. Ms. Libby Robbins of Dunsandel for services to children's welfare. Ms. Libby Robbins is the Director of Family Help Trust, FHT, which helps Canterbury's most disadvantaged families develop effective parenting skills. She established FHT to help break the cycle of social deprivation and family violence she's seen in her previous career as a social worker. FHT uses an evidence-based, outcome-focused framework to determine which families and babies need their service the most. And Ms. Robbins initiated an online caseload reporting and monitoring system that reinforces this approach. FHT has worked with more than 500 families to improve the lives of more than 1,200 children. The organisation established HIPPY, Home Interaction Programme for Parents and Youngsters, at Rowley Avenue Primary School, a 2-year home-based programme that builds the confidence and skills of parents to prepare their child for primary school. Mrs. Gayleen Shasha of Porirua for services to dance. Mrs. Gayleen Shasha founded New Dance, New Zealand's first professional modern dance company, before instigating the first National Dance Congress at Rongamaraeroa Marae in Porangahau. She choreographed works such as Face to Face for the South Pacific Arts Festival, Wananga I Te Rangi for Impulse Dance Theatre, and Moko for the Royal New Zealand Ballet. She was a long-time member of Tamatea Ariki Nui, performing at Te Matatini. She lectured at various tertiary institutions before founding Whiterea Performing Arts. She led the program for more than 20 years and was instrumental in extensive touring throughout Europe, Asia and the United States. Mrs. Shasha has served on various local and national committees, including Te Ope o Rehua Toi Maori, and as a director of Dance Aotearoa, New Zealand. Mr. Bruce Stewart of Milton for services to the community and the construction industry. Mr. Bruce Stewart co-founded and manages the construction and property company Calder Stewart Industries. Calder Stewart was established with 2 employees and is now a multi-million-dollar national company with more than 450 employees. Mr. Stewart is elder and deacon of Toko Mairiro Presbyterian Church and a member and committee member of the South Otago Farm Forestry Association. He's a member of the Rotary Club of Milton and has held leadership roles there. He's been a board member of the Otago Manufacturers Association, Otago Master Builders, and the New Zealand Metal Roofing Manufacturers. He's also been a member of the Milton Borough Council, the Bruce District Council, and the Milton Youth Council, and a youth leader with the Presbyterian Church. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Dr. Paula Green of Auckland, for services as a poet and to literature. Dr. Paula Green has published 7 poetry collections and edited 2 further collections. She edited an edition of Best New Zealand Poems and co-authored 99 Ways into New Zealand Poetry. She's also published 5 books for children, including the award-winning Letterbox Cat and other poems. She organised the Alba Poetry Readings, curated Auckland City Council's Poetry on the Pavement event, and provided text for the poetry and painting exhibition The Northern Line as part of the Going West Literary Festival. Dr. Green runs 2 New Zealand poetry blogs, visits schools at all levels, has judged the New Zealand Post-Secondary Poetry Competition, and has featured at various national literary festivals. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Hall of New York for services to the New Zealand Defence Force. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Hall served as the Senior Military Advisor and Commanding Officer for the New Zealand Provincial Reconstruction Team in Bamyan Province, Afghanistan from 15th of April to 30th September 2012. Throughout this deployment, he oversaw the execution of the team's mission to assist the government of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan by undertaking reconstruction tasks and assisting with the provision of security in Bamyan Province. He demonstrated outstanding calm and professional leadership in the aftermath of incidents on the 4th of August and 19th of August 2012, in which 5 New Zealanders were killed in action and a further 8 wounded. He ensured that the team retained its operational effectiveness as a fully functioning and task-worthy military organisation, despite suffering significant casualties within a very short period of time. He was also responsible for planning and executing the successful redeployment of New Zealand forces from the forward operating bases at Romero and Doabi, located in the northeast of Bamyan Province, to the main New Zealand base at Bamyan. The success of the operation was due to Lieutenant Colonel Hall's meticulous planning and coordination of the movement of the various elements of the reconstruction team with supporting coalition forces. Ms. Benicia Smith of Christchurch for services to the state. Ms. Benicia Smith was part of the Policy Advisory Group of the Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet at the time of the Canterbury earthquakes. She became leader of the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Policy Team, a special unit set up to lead and coordinate policy advice across government relating to the 2010 earthquake. After the 2011 earthquakes, she supported the development of the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority, CERA, and the drafting of the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery legislation. She then held a series of Deputy Chief Executive roles at CERA. Ms. Smith has worked closely with local councils and Te Runanga o Ngai Tahu during the recovery. Ms. Rema Tawiata of Auckland for services to film and television. Ms. Rema Tawiata has starred in more than 60 theatrical productions in New Zealand and Australia. Her television credits include more than 200 episodes of the Australian soap opera Sons and Daughters, the comedy shows Issues and Full Frontal, the sitcom version of the Billy T. James Show, and the sketch show Laugh-Ins. She had critically acclaimed roles in the films Housebound and Hunt for the Wilder People. She's also contributed to performing arts in New Zealand as a theatre director. Ms. Tawiata was a prominent figure in supporting actions to improve the remuneration and employment conditions of New Zealand actors. Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, Mr. Basil Brooker of Hastings for services to music. Mr. Basil Brooker founded the Hastings Madrigal Singers, later renamed as the Linden Singers. He's been the choir's conductor, chairman and leading organiser for 45 years. He's organised more than 90 innovative musical programmes and more than 150 concerts, as well as performances on Radio New Zealand and for the Praise Be television programme, tours to other towns and cities, guest artists and advertising. He's trained more than 200 singers around the region and has himself been a choral member of the St John's Cathedral Choir. Mr. Kevin Geddes of Ashburton for services to agriculture and the community. Mr. Kevin Geddes is a senior policy advisor for Federated Farmers, and as part of that role has been the executive director of the Fertiliser Quality Council and the New Zealand Ground Spread Fertiliser Association. He's mentored and advised elected representatives and been a member of the Mid-Canterbury Federated Farmers Charitable Trust and the Mid-Canterbury Emergency Relief Trust. Mr. Geddes has also been president of the Ashburton Justices of the Peace Association, president of the Royal Federation of Justices of the Peace Associations, and president of the Australasian Justices of the Peace Associations. Mr. David Hosking of Te Kaupata for services to the community. Mr. David Hosking is chairman of Highbrook Park Trust, which administers 40 hectares of park land in East Tāmaki. He's a member of the Auckland Observatory and Planetarium Trust Board. He was involved with the Manukau Rotary Club and is now a member of the Lions Club of Te Kaupata and districts, through which he project managed the design and construction of the Soldiers' Memorial in Te Kaupata. He is treasurer of the Wairenga Hall Society and a former chair of the Alfriston School Board. He chaired the Auckland branch of Governance New Zealand and served on the New Zealand Board. Mrs. Sandra Ibbotson of Napier for services to the community. Mrs. Sandra Ibbotson partnered with the police to start the Napier Community Patrol, NACP, and has driven its growth into the largest community patrol in New Zealand with more than 240 volunteers. She's the coordinator of NACP and the national recruitment and membership convener for the Community Patrols New Zealand. She regularly speaks to community groups, arranges promotional stalls at events, interviews people interested in joining NACP, and created a training manual for new members. She writes a newsletter for patrollers, prepares 6 monthly incident and statistics reports, and presents NACP submissions to the Napier City Council for ongoing funding. Mrs. Lynn Lamb of Masterton for services to equestrian sport. Mrs. Lynn Lamb has competed nationally in showing, dressage, show jumping and eventing. She's been Assistant District Commissioner, Head Instructor and A&P Liaison Officer for North Wairarapa Pony Club and is currently the patron. She's coached national representative pony club teams and has been a listed judge for the Royal Agricultural Society. Mrs. Lamb is a committee member of Riding for the Disabled and the first female clerk of the course at a metropolitan racecourse in New Zealand. She's a member of the Castle Point Beach Racing Club and a life member of Equestrian Sport New Zealand. Ms. Helen Wilberg of Lower Hutt for services to music. Ms. Helen Wilberg has been a primary, secondary and tertiary teacher specialising in music. She's produced several music publications for Play Centre. She helped to establish Chimes, a preschool music group, and still runs some sessions. She's published research articles and has been a consultant for learning media, the New Zealand Correspondence School and the New Zealand Qualifications Authority. Ms. Wilberg mentors early childhood teachers about music. She was the Director of Music at St James Anglican Church, Lower Hutt, and is a former President of the Music Education New Zealand Association and a former member of the Orpheus Choir. Your Excellency, to receive the New Zealand Distinguished Service Decoration. Major Graham Hickman of Burnham for services to the New Zealand Defence Force and brass bands. Major Graham Hickman has led the New Zealand Army Band to be recognised by the Edinburgh Military Tattoo as one of the top 3 tattoo acts in the world, and by the Basel International Tattoo as the best military marching band in the world. Major Hickman joined the New Zealand Army Band after graduating from high school and over the next 31 years held the positions of instructor, bandmaster, officer commanding the School of Music and director of music. He's led the band on major international engagements to the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, the World Band Festival in Lucerne, the King of Tonga's coronation, the German War Graves Commission tattoo, and the Queen's 90th birthday. He conducted a national tour in collaboration with the Royal New Zealand Ballet, performing Salute for the World War I Centenary Commemoration Project. He's contributed as a tutor, administrator, and musical director within his local community on a voluntary basis. He's been musical director of the National Secondary Schools Brass Band and the National Youth Brass Band, as well as several local brass bands, most recently Woolston Brass, which he led to national and Australian championship titles. Major Hickman was the champion conductor of New Zealand from 2009 to 2012. Corporal Ewan Vanner for services to the New Zealand Defence Force. Corporal Ewan Vanner served in Bamyan Province, Afghanistan in 2012 as a member of the New Zealand Provincial Reconstruction Team. Corporal Vanner served as crew commander of the lead light armoured vehicle for Kiwi Team 1 patrol. On the 4th of August 2012, his patrol was tasked to assist 2 other New Zealand patrols and a unit of Afghan security forces who'd sustained casualties while under attack near Dahani Baghak village. He led Kiwi Team 1 into the engagement area, successfully firing on insurgent positions, allowing the remainder of his patrol to evacuate casualties. When the patrol's second-in-command was shot, he took over this role and coordinated with his commander to direct coalition aircraft attacks on the insurgents and maintain contact with New Zealand troops who had become isolated. He remained as patrol second-in-command, a position normally filled by a soldier of sergeant's rank, for the remainder of the deployment. On the 5th of August 2012, a forward patrol base in Doabi town was attacked and his patrol faced threats from insurgents and improvised explosive devices. Corporal Vanner calmly assisted with coordinating support and aerial surveillance aircraft, displaying outstanding professionalism and leadership. Your Excellency, the investiture is concluded.
An investiture ceremony is the most important event I hold on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen of New Zealand. It's important because it allows me, as Governor-General, to recognise and thank an extraordinary group of people on behalf of all New Zealanders. It's important that we acknowledge and celebrate the people who make a contribution, who set an example to others by using their talents to make ours a better society. Also this morning we've recognised members of the New Zealand Defence Force who've given exemplary service to our country. An award of this nature is a rare accolade. It recognises determination, commitment, perseverance, compassion, and a contribution to society. To the recipients, we've all been privileged to hear your stories. You've set a fine example which inspires, encourages, and motivates others. In your way, each of you promotes the things that are important to all New Zealanders. Your actions and the stories we've heard today remind me of the words of humanitarian Albert Schweitzer when he said, "The purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion and the will to help others." Your contributions have enriched the cultural, social and economic fabric of Aotearoa, New Zealand. On behalf of the Queen of New Zealand and all New Zealanders, I thank you for your achievements, your character and your commitment. Kia ora hui hui tātou katoa. Ladies and gentlemen, that almost brings to a close the formal part of today's ceremonies. But before we go through for refreshments, I'd like to ask you to stand and sing with me the national anthem in Māori and in English.